Well, thanks everybody. This is Don. I'm with SMC, and I've got Garin Wallace here, who's our Director of Development and Design. And today we're going to talk to you guys about the new SMC Rescue StayK and the load equalizing rescue anchor system. So just a little bit more about, or some facts, just in case there's anybody here that doesn't know about SMC. SMC manufactures technical rescue and mountaineering hardware. We were founded in 1967, and our birthplace in Seattle. 2001, we actually moved to Ferndale, Washington, where our current operations are. And we're also, everything we manufacture is 100% USA made here in Ferndale, so every carabiner, everything. We're members of various different organizations within the industry. And so just a little bit about where we're coming from. Just so everybody knows that this is just an overview. It's not to substitute for any kind of training. If you need any assistance with training on this type of system, I'm sure the guys over at VRS will be glad to give you guys a hand. I'm sure that there's many of you guys are familiar with the different types of pickets and anchors that and StayK systems that are in the market today. We've seen everything from nice chunks of wood being used to your typical
hunks of pipe,
and or actually some other StayK systems that are out there. So. The reason why SMC decided to design the StayK system, and actually we worked in conjunction with a gentleman by the name of Stan Wiggins to come up with the solution, and we did this so that rescue personnel throughout North America would have a solution that was actually engineered versus just cutting off some slabs of rebar and driving them into the ground. Hopefully this will provide a universal anchoring system for all rescue operations. So, what makes the Rescue StayK a better solution than what's out there in the market today is the solution has actually been fully engineered from the ground up out of stainless steel, aluminum, and to provide super high strength and optimal anchoring points. So as I mentioned, the rescue StayKs are all made out of stainless steel rod. They feature 2 rotation blocks and 2 rotation sleeves. These will help with maximizing the utilization of the StayK system. We also have 2 fixed secure attach points, and then to drive in the StayK versus just pounding on the top, we actually have an end cap that's designed to protect the end of the StayK. So, so that's just a little bit about the StayK and kind of where we came from, and then Garin's going to talk to you about some testing and some configuration.
All right, you guys get to see something that we haven't put out there, but I guess we are. But in the development of the StayK system, what we really wanted to do was to make something, as Don mentioned, better than hunks of rebar, better than hunks of pipe. My experience is that people who are using those hunks of rebar and pipes, they kind of picture them as a last resort system when there's no other place to anchor, they'll go ahead and do that. And part of that is because dirt can be really strong or dirt can be really weak, depending on where you live and what the conditions are. So I don't think anyone really put a lot of thought into the StayK itself, because, as I said, they're the last resort. So what we came up with is, as we said, an engineered solution, something that the StayK wouldn't be the weak link. And yeah, we still have to deal with different types of dirt. But as I mentioned later, there's a lot of things we can do with these that can really help with the strength of the goods, such as placement. But what we have here is just some of our, showing you some of the testing we did in setting up the stake. And you can see that this, from this picture, that this is really, this is back before they were colored and anything. We were just doing the testing. And you notice the rigging on this, but just so you know, is a rope system. And the beautiful thing about that is that it connects all the stakes together with a single length of rope, and you can equalize between the stakes instead of tying webbing one to the other. You can place the stakes, 5 feet apart or 50 feet apart, and that's where you want to use some really low stretch rope. This is just a picture of after we have pulled the stakes, just for the heck of it, and see what's happened. And one of the things that I think is really cool about this system and the secure attach points, if you look at this stake, especially that front one, if this were a regular stake, just their hips with webbing, that might become a little tentative about how you would be holding. Because if the rope or webbing or whatever you're using to attach were to slip up or down the stake, that could be a point where you might release the load. But with those attach points that you actually clip into, having that front stake pull, yeah, it's not good. This system here went up to 6,000 pounds in pretty loose sandy soil. Even though that pulled, the system is secure because now that stake is part of the system. So go ahead and click it. You can see this is, I think this is a center stake, but you get a glimpse of the way we set this up, where you're using the rope, passing around these rotation sleeves. You're actually using those rotation blocks, one facing forward, another, in this case I guess they're both facing back, so this is the center one. But you can use the stakes in any position and rig them either with carabiners, you can tie to the rotation sleeves, even those attachment blocks, because of the U-bolts in there, you could actually put the pulley right in there and kind of pre-rig a system.
So in this picture, this is the rear stake, and the grip cam on there is what we're using to tension the whole system. And this one also has a picture of that end cap on there, the driving cap. And that, I think, is a pretty cool thing because these guys are not cheap, and we've got that end cap on there so you can protect them, and so you're not, as you're using these, you're not destroying the system the same way as with rebar and pipe and more inexpensive things. This is just a little glimpse of, since we don't have soil that is super strong, we wanted to test how strong the actual stake could be, given if you were to drive them into asphalt or butt them up against something really secure. Is everybody hearing me now? Is that? I'll just assume yes. So this is just a picture of one of the test fixtures, and we pulled on it, and this is mimicking just an item that's not tied back. And the number on these they're around 2,500 pounds or something, just bending an untied back stake. This is a video. It's a quick one, but this is testing, and the red rope in this system is actually mimicking the tie back, and this is just proving out the strength. And I think if you hear the sound, you'll see that we're approaching about 10,000 pounds on this, and 10,000. There you go. And we're actually bending that stake, and 12,000 pounds is where we stopped the test. So these are really super strong, but I always qualify that with, you got to have really strong grip to go with that. And there's what the stake would look like, and that, to me, that's telling me that we've got a good, strong solution here and nothing like the rebar and pipe, things like that, something that's up to the rescue loads that and safety factors that people are used to working with. So the things, just to go over them again, what makes that such a reliable system, and I think something that doesn't have to be a last resort anchor, is that when you rig it in this way, you have an ability to self-equalize and distribute the load equally throughout the system, and that's a really important thing. In like windlass systems where you're tying one stake to another with webbing and then tensioning the webbing, if you lose one of the stakes or one of the stake shifts, it can compromise the strength of the whole system, so you aren't always getting the maximum holding from all of the stakes. And by connecting them all together in a way that you can equalize, it really does provide something that's pretty darn strong if you are careful where you place it, of course. And we'll show you in the rigging section after this, but you can actually use pressix, and you might have seen them in the other pictures, that once you rig this and you tension it, you can apply pressix to the second and third stakes that allow you to kind of isolate the one zone, the front zone, from the back zone, so if you do have a weak stake placement, that it doesn't compromise the whole system's strength. I think that's a marketing a marketing thing there with the rod size, but it is a good solid 1-inch rod, so it's strong and it does push dirt as it rolls forward. I think there we go. So I guess this is part of starting to set up the system, and we actually have a nice little booklet that goes with this to show you how to set this up, because you'll see it looks real complicated, but you know, and that was my initial thought upon setting up these images. But in actual practice out there, it is actually really quick to set up, and with the way the connectors are, you can actually leave this thing pre-rigged, you know, if you want to put it in the back of the truck. So this will run through a little setup of the system here. And this is the finished system, and you know, this is the one where I look at this and go, oh gosh, it's really complicated. But we'll run through it and you'll see it's really not that bad. And just so you realize in this, that the ideal angle that we found for placing these is 20-degree tilt back away from the rescue load. But it's much easier if we're actually drawing these up and presenting them if they're just straight up. So the following pictures will just have them straight up. But you can see that the first thing you do, you drive them in, and the distance between them is pretty unimportant. You don't have to put them 5 feet apart because that's how long your webbing is or anything like that. You can put them as long as your rope can handle, or as close as your rope can handle. And so in the rigging of the equalizing anchor, you're first going to just put a bight around the lower part of the front, and you see where you're attaching to where we say applied rescue force. And we're putting the bight below that. And then what you're doing is just from that bight, you're moving back and running around the rotation sleeves all the way till the back stake. And then you're going to come back forward doing the same thing, running around the mid of the center stake and then through a pulley back on the top of the front stake. And so this system is already starting to equalize. Then you're bringing the rope back from the front stake and around the middle stake, and then when you're back at the rear stake, you're putting it again through a pulley. And at this point, you can attach a pressik, or you can do it at the end. I found it's kind of nice to put it on here because you don't have as much slack rope lying around. And then you can see the last thing you do is running the rope back to the center stake, again through a pulley, and then back to where it's number 9 there is a grip. You could also put another pulley with a prusik there if you chose. Some people think it's a little bit easier to handle that way, and I would probably agree with them, but a grip or even a prusik right at that point at number 9 is sufficient. And also just a reminder that this is really low stretch rope, because this amount of rope in play, you really want it to be something that's approaching 0 stretch. There's a lot of friction points in the system and a lot of rope in play, and you're replacing a system that used webbing, which has virtually no stretch, so you really want to get something low stretch here. And then there's one last point on this, is putting on the number 12 prusik, and that comes into play, and it's one of those things I think people are going to have to set this up and play with it a little bit. But what that number 12 prusik does is it ends up isolating the stake, so that if you pull one or the other, then you still have the other 2 in a system. And that's why I said that's one of the really important things. The other, I think the last point on rigging these is that we think that this self-equalizing system is a really good system. I think once people learn how to do it, it sets up fast, because you're just going back and forth and putting pulleys up to change the directions. And it's going to set up fast, and if stakes move, you can always grab the rope and put more tension on it. So there's a lot of great things there. But the other thing you can do with these stakes is there's nothing stopping you if you're comfortable with webbing and windlass systems, or you want to do them in a V pattern. There's nothing stopping you from rigging these in that manner, and you can still take advantage of those rotation blocks, so that your front stake, you can have a low clip point for where the rescue load is going. You can have an upper clip point, and again, they're not just dirt-hitched webbing. You can set it up any way you want. They're still really strong. So I don't know how much time that took, but it is a pretty cool system, I think, relative to what's out there. I think it's new because there's not really a lot of systems out there, but I'm thinking it's going to be good and can really make you guys think about using stakes as solid anchors. So I think that's what we have, and I'm ready for any questions anybody might have. Oh, one point I didn't bring up too is that just in stakes in general, what we found is that you can get a lot of very secure points with these stakes by doing things like using asphalt, either if it's summertime, driving it directly through the asphalt, placing stakes up against natural features like sidewalks, things like that. Even if you have trees that are too small to be suitable anchors, driving one of these stakes close to the tree so we can take advantage of the root structure for stake placement, those are things that can really increase the strength of a stake placement. So that was just a point I didn't want to forget about. So I'm ready for if anybody has any questions.
All right. Give me just a second here. I'm going to take the screen back.
Okay.
All right. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat/questions area of your control panel. Just type them in there, and I will ask the guys. All right. The first question is on prusik 12. Can you show how the right side of the rope would be tensioned if there was a stake failure?
I've tried to explain it even on the
the ground with somebody in their hand, and I can send you the manual. We can get your email address and send you the manual and have you look at it. And maybe I can try and explain it, but my experience is that I cannot explain that system very easily without hands-on. And I'm sorry that that's not such a great answer, but I could do some email conversations or get you on the phone once you have the manual in your hand and try and describe that better. That's kind of a non-answer to your question. Best
Okay.
I can do, though.
He said no worries. And actually, you know, that email will be included in the packet that I send you guys, so you guys will be able to respond to emails.
Well, we have the manual that comes with it that has the same pictures, and so give me a call or an email, and we'll talk through it.
All right, and it doesn't appear that there are any other questions right now. If you have any more, just go ahead and type them in real quick while I'm kind of doing this, you know, closing this out. If you have any further questions, you can ask them. There will be an email link at the website shown on the screen. I'll be putting that up there in a few minutes, and you can ask any further questions of Garin or Dawn at that link. And then a recording of this webinar and the slides that were used are going to be posted also at that link within 24 hours. And we do these webinars once a month at least, so you can keep up on when we're going to do them and what the topics are at the website, or you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and we post all the webinars that we're doing on there as well as other events. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to email Dawn and Garin, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, everyone, for showing up, and we hope you enjoyed it. And thanks, Dawn and Garin, for doing this.
Oh, thanks.
All right, everyone, have a great day.